Today on New England Living, we'll meet an artist on the North Shore handcrafting custom acoustic guitars for the stars. And we'll check out a one-of-a-kind wedding planning service focused on pets. Plus, an acclaimed Boston chef puts his local spin on a classic bisque. It all starts right now on New England Living. New England is full of adventure. I can't believe you guys are letting me do this.
Up and away.
Look at that. Oh, you just did your first takeoff.
Join me as we discover the people and places that make us so unique.
This is it. You can't find it anywhere else in North America.
I mean, does it get any better than this? Love the place you call home with New England Living. Thanks for joining us today on New England Living. I'm your host, Rachel Holt. First up, we're heading to Marblehead to meet an artist world-renowned for his handcrafted, custom-made acoustic guitars. Bill Tippin, founder and owner of Tippin Guitars. We're in such a beautiful location here in Marblehead, an area that's so rich with history. The USS Constitution used to actually park right outside this shop. So as far as your history here, what is your background and how did that lead you to this?
I had a business repairing yachts. In the summertime, it was slow. So I started building guitars here in a little room down the hall. I continued to do that, and it just developed into me moving into this shop here, and I've been here for about 38 years.
You have 4 original models here. What are they and how do they differ?
They range in size. That's primarily what makes the difference. All of my guitars are named after the Latin forms of music expressions. The smallest one is called a staccato. Plays a fingerstyle that's nice and airy. The next guitar was the crescendo, which is a little bit bigger. It gives you an avenue to be played on stage. A lot of fingerstyle, you can still strum it. It's good for singing. The next model is a forte, and the forte is a little more grandioso with the tone. Has a bigger, fuller, richer sound overall. And that's a very versatile guitar. So you can play fingerstyle, blues, bluegrass. And then the next model is my largest model, which is the bravado, which is a jumbo-sized guitar. And there you get advantage of it being loud and boisterous with a lot of bass and bluegrass players and strummers and accompaniment with vocals and so on.
One of the things that you're known for is working with really high-quality woods. So where are you sourcing your materials from?
I get it from all over the world. I've been doing it for such a long time that I have connections in different places like Brazil, Africa, South America, Southern Florida for Cuban mahogany, and there's Switzerland, which is one of the most wonderful top woods for the guitar tone-wise. It's called moon spruce. They go out in a GPS during a certain phase of moon when the sap is the lowest content in the tree. And then from there, it's logged up and then milled and sliced and then dried for a couple of years before they're sold. So that gives you an idea of why some of these guitars are so expensive because of the woods itself.
How is each piece of wood attributing to the different sounds that are coming out of the guitar?
The different wood combinations produce different tones. Say if I use a mahogany, it's going to be a warm, real punchy sound to it, whereas if I use a rosewood with a certain top, it's going to be airy, long sustained, sweet, melodic, someone who would play Celtic music with a lot of pauses between notes. The bluesy ones are sort of mahogany with a different type of spruce, and those are finger style, punch, and it's a great sound, but it's different. Each one I have to evaluate how this top is going to work with this back and sides to produce this guitar for this customer who plays this way.
Your shop is separated into the repair room and then you have a new build room. We're standing on the repair side. What's the process like here?
It varies depending on what the guitar needs. Sometimes I have to completely take the neck off and the bridge off, reset all of that to make it play right. Some of it is damages from people dropping their guitars where you have to replace a side or a top or a back or just fix cracks. There's no real procedure through the shop until you get to that one guitar, and then you start a procedure with that one guitar. I'm working on an old Martin that's 1896. To do it correctly so that you don't lose value, you have to be very particular about how you do it. And it has to look old, even though you've replaced parts on it.
Looking around the shop, it seems like every instrument here has a story to tell. What's the deal with this one here?
That's a very old banjo, one of the first 5-string banjos ever made. It dates back to 1867, and it was made by Henry Dobson, who was one of the first banjo makers, and I believe he was from Massachusetts. But you can see the age and the patina of it, and my job was to restore it to where it's in a playable condition.
For each new build that you have here, what's the process like?
Starts with some raw wood that's book matched, glued together. The sides are bent for the crescendo or what have you. Then you put that all into a mold called the builder's mold, and that holds the shape. And then you fashion the top, put the rosette in it, which is a decorative part around the sound hole. Then you glue the top on and the back on, and that becomes a box. And there's routing to put all the exterior details on. Those are called bindings, and whatever other details that go on the body itself. And the neck goes through its whole process, which is very complicated. And that's fitting it to the body and then gluing the fretboard onto the neck, putting all the intricacies on the neck part of it, then filing it down so it's nice and smooth. Then you go to the spray booth and you spray it, and you wait 3 weeks for the spray to cure. Then you sand it out and buff it to a polish, and then you glue the neck on the guitar and string it up. And then I document each guitar in my books in a file, but I also sign the tops on the inside.
When it comes to one of your finished guitars, how do you know that you got the sound just right?
You never know whether it's going to be a hit or not until you go ring with one chord. Then I give it to someone else and listen to them play it. The final reward is when I give it to the customer and the customer plays it. I get to hear how they play it. Then I get to understand what's coming out of the guitar and how happy the customer is.
You've worked with some very high-profile clients. Can we ask you to name drop a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Jewel, Adam Sandler, Gene Simmons, Steve Earle, Bonnie Raitt, Kenny Chesney, Neil Young, and it goes on from there.
Describe that feeling of coming down, sitting down, and getting to work on one of these guitars on a day-to-day basis.
It's totally addictive. I've done it so long that you think you know everything. It's very tedious and exhausting, but it's so satisfying. The end result is it's a euphoric kind of feeling to fashion something the way that I want it to be, and then people lavish over it and spend money for it. I mean, that's kind of like a feather in my cap.
Coming up after the break, part pet training, part wedding planning. We'll check out a unique service grooming furry family members for the biggest day of your life when New England Living returns after this. Welcome back to New England Living. I'm Rachel Holt. Up next, it's a new kind of wedding planning for the entire family. Danielle Marchessault is a certified dog trainer and founder of For the Love of Paws. You offer a wedding day pet care service. So on someone's big day, what are you doing?
Basically, we bring people's pets to the wedding venue. We ensure that they're on their best behavior, groomed, brushed, ready to go for the wedding day. We work really closely with the photographer and the wedding venue coordinator to make sure that they're in the right spot, posing for photos. We help them walk down the aisle when it's their time. And then we bring them all back at the end of the wedding and tuck them in, give them some love, and you don't have to worry about it as the owner. We give a lot of time on the wedding day to work with them, give them some treats, get them comfortable with us so that they can be perfect and ready to go. Boy, sit. Yes, good boy. Okay. Stay. Stay. Before any ceremony, we do what we call like a practice run, and that's usually 30 minutes of taking your dog and walking them up and down the aisle a million times, letting them sniff, letting them greet guests, just getting them really comfortable with the environment that they're in.
As much as a wedding is about the two people getting married, let's be honest, it's also about the guest and impressing them.
Yes.
What's the typical reaction to seeing a dog up at the altar?
Everyone freaks out. I always joke that I feel like I'm this famous person walking into a wedding day because everyone is like, that's the dog, oh my gosh. They get so excited. Everyone is so happy to see the couple's dog, and it's an all around like good vibe, happy feeling on the day.
If anyone can relate to the people wanting a pet as part of their wedding, it's you. You were a bride, you had your dogs as part of the wedding. How did that work?
Yeah, so it was really important to me that we had our dogs at our wedding. I have 2 dogs myself that are my life, so it was definitely a big portion of the wedding planning. How are we gonna get them there? All the logistical things, which kind of sparked creating the company to begin with, because there is so much planning and so much logistics that go into it. We definitely loved having them there, and it kind of showed, okay, if we want this so much, then there's gotta be other people out there that must want this service.
Because it is a wedding day, obviously not everything is gonna go as planned. What are some of those funny moments that have happened?
Yeah, so we've definitely had a few moments where dogs do their own thing. They have a mind of their own. We've had one in particular that went viral on Instagram. It was a yellow lab named Colonel. They wanted their dog to be his true self and just totally him. So they were comfortable with him running down the aisle, and whatever happens, happens, and that's exactly what he did. He sprinted down the aisle, ran into the mic, had a little mic drop, and he crushed it.
You're mostly dealing with dogs and weddings, but what other pets and events are you working with?
We work with all kinds of pets. We've done horses, we've done goats, we've done pigs, and we've done cats. We definitely don't discriminate against pet over here. And then we do any kind of events. So we've brought animals to birthday parties before. We've brought animals to like anniversary type parties. We really do anything.
How has your business grown since you first started it?
So when we first started, it was just me. It was a solo business. I was doing it part-time. It was just something for fun. And now, over the last 3-4 years, I have a team of 10 wonderful women who work for me. We cover weddings all across New England, all across the East Coast. We travel all over the country for them. It's definitely gone from 0 to 100 very quickly.
What is that like for you and your team to be a part of the biggest day of someone's life?
It truly is a dream job. I mean, you couldn't ask for anything better. You're around all this love, all this happiness, and the cutest dogs ever.
Does it get any better than that?
No, it really doesn't.
No. Coming up next, Executive Chef Charles Draghi shows off his tips and tricks for cooking up the ultimate crab bisque when New England Living returns after this. Welcome back to New England Living. Up next, renowned chef Charles Draghi turns an invasive species into an incredible seafood bisque. Chef Charles Draghi has been a fixture in the local restaurant scene for decades. On his way to earning a degree from Harvard, he honed his craft at some of the city's top restaurants. Now the executive chef at Alcove in Boston's West End, Chef Chuck is known for his commitment to helping create non-traditional, sustainable food sources, including his work with the invasive green crab.
We're here at the Clark Sub-Zero and Wolf showroom, and I am joined by Chef Charles Draghi from Alcove. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Well, we know what you're making today, green crab. Why did you pick this ingredient?
Because they're delicious. They have really beautiful flavor. We're going to coax out with lots of olive oil. We don't use a lot of butter or cream in this one. This is a very classic bisque. So we're going to take the green crabs, which were previously frozen, defrosted, put them in the pot, turn the heat up a little bit. You can already hear I'm starting to sizzle. The flavor of the crab, a lot of it is inside the body. So as you saute them, if you take a spoon and you just sort of crush them down a little bit, that helps coax the flavor out.
You also get a little arm workout in.
You do,
making this
absolutely.
meal. Okay.
Yeah, it's a little workout. Well, you got to earn your meal, right? So we have mirepoix vegetables here. This is all in the recipe. You want to get everything caramelizing, some spices, lots of fennel. That's really wonderful here. Some herbs. We're gonna let all this just saute for a while. Now, the flavor of this bisque, the key of it is caramelization. So you want to keep on sauteing till you get little brown bits of caramel on the bottom of the pan. That comes from the water that comes out of the crabs. And as you crush them, you get a little bit more, you get the flavor of the roe and all that. So this is a classic lobster bisque recipe, but putting the crabs in, you get a much deeper oceany flavor. They're also an invasive species, so we're trying to, alleviate the problems with that. Their favorite food is soft shell clams. So they're delicious because they're eating really good clams, but then it makes steamers very expensive. So we're trying to get them used more and more in restaurants. Now, even with a very large crab, there's not a lot of meat inside of them. So the flavor is locked inside the crab itself. You want to coax that out. So a bisque is a perfect way because you saute it, and then when you puree it, all the flavors come together. Oh, it already smells fantastic.
It's smelling pretty good already.
Yeah, there's rosemary, fennel, there's white pepper. It's beautiful.
Now, you mentioned that they are an invasive species, and if you're in New England, you see them on the beaches everywhere. So why are they becoming such a problem?
Well, part of it is the global warming and that they're getting a little bit more aggressive and they're moving a little bit more northward where there's a lot of clams. They're also just breeding, and there isn't a natural predator, so their population is exploding. Now, they're very popular in Europe to eat. In Italy, for instance, soft-shell crabs, when you get them, are green crabs, and they're fantastic, they're delicious. Chefs, we like to eat a lot of things that most other people are like, you eat what? We like things like snails and eels and all kinds of things. So this is one of those ingredients, the green crab, that is really delicious. I think it's very accessible to a lot of people. If people like crab bisque or shrimp bisque or lobster bisque, they'll love this because it's like all the best flavor profile of that, but concentrated. Now here, I don't know if you can see in the pan, a little bit of brown here, see? So now, best tool in a kitchen, a wooden spoon. Simplest, goes back thousands of years probably or more. But this is perfect because all you do is you just sort of, see how you scrape?
Yep.
And when you scrape that caramelization, it makes these little caramelized beads, which I call flavor crystals, right? And that's where all your flavor is gonna come from. The trick of this soup is the less caramelization, the lighter the flavor. The more caramelization, the deeper and more powerful the flavor. So you can make it as light and bright as you want, or you can make it as deep and roasty as you want.
You're a New England guy. You're from the area. You went to Harvard. You have a degree from there. What is it like now being so immersed in the restaurant scene, having worked at so many great restaurants in the city, and introducing fun menu items like this?
I love it. You couldn't do the business if you didn't love it. But it's a love of ingredients. Sometimes it's not just about what's cool and crazy for the imagination. It's also what really tastes so good that you want to cry. And to me, this is one of those things.
After it's been doing this for about 20 minutes, what's the next step?
Yeah, so you see all the nice caramelization. So now you add the liquid. Let's do white wine. You want to have a nice white wine. The rule of thumb with wine is you never want to cook with a wine you wouldn't drink, right?
I like that
A little
rule.
bit. You put some dry sherry, or in this case, marsala. And then the water from the crabs, when they defrost it, you save that because it has a lot of flavor in it. Some plain old water. And then a little tomato paste. This is the key. Rice. The rice will cook, and later on, you're just gonna puree everything together. And the starch of the rice mixes with the body fat of the crab and the richness of the roe, and that makes the body of the bisque without cream or butter or anything else. That makes the richness.
Now that it's smelling really good, looking really good, what's the final step?
So you let it simmer about 30 minutes, puree it, strain it, and then you wind up with this. Nice, rich, full-flavored bisque. Here, I'll pour some for you.
The moment I have been waiting for.
Oh, yeah. I know, the smells are just killing us.
This looks absolutely incredible, and it smells even better. Wow, the bold flavors.
Yes.
I've never had something like this before.
Isn't that great?
That is incredible.
If you want to make this at home, go to wolfsfish.com, and they sell packets of the green crabs, 3 pounds. You can make a small batch or a large batch, and it's very, very easy to cook.
And we have a wine to pair with this, the Beringer Private Reserve Chardonnay from Napa Valley. It was actually a Wine Spectator Wine of the Year. How does this pair with the bisque?
It's perfect because it has that richness and the body and the backbone to stand up to the bisque, and that bright acidity, the green gold apple that really brings up the flavor of the crab. You know, you really need a wine of this caliber to enrich the bisque and to make it a great pairing.
Wine and crab bisque. This is a good day. Cheers.
Cheers.
Welcome back to the show. It's time now to go around New England with your New England Chevy dealer. Next stop, the Vermont Institute of Natural Science, or VINS for short, which sits on 47 acres of picturesque forest land in Quechee, Vermont. There you'll be able to connect with nature and learn how to care for the environment. The Nature Center is open to visitors daily with plenty of options for things to see and do. For many, the highlight is the 17 state-of-the-art raptor enclosures on site that house birds of prey, including hawks, falcons, and owls. Guests can learn more about these animals through educational programs such as Raptor Feeding Time and Hawk on the Walk, where you can track one of the raptors out on a flight. There's also a Center for Wild Bird Rehabilitation, where care is given to injured avian wildlife, the largest provider of its kind in the state. Other VINS centers focus on environmental education and research, and chances to learn are numerous, whether in an outdoor classroom or in an adventure playscape. Visitors are also encouraged to take a walk on interpretive nature trails. Guests can explore the great outdoors with a view from the treetops during the Forest Canopy Walk, where you can get up to 65 feet above the forest floor.
Thanks for joining us today on New England Living. For more on the show or anything you've seen here today, visit us at newenglandliving.tv and follow us on social media. I'm Rachel Holt. See you next time on New England Living.